Hello and welcome to Alternate Image Raid. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video, and today I'm going to try to tackle the world record for clan boss. Okay, so not exactly. Today what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make my team as close as possible to the current world record for clan boss with my much more realistic and normal account. So the goal will be to see, obviously we're not going to get anywhere near that world record, but can we even make a fully Ultra Nightmare team with this strategy that they're using? Or is the difference between a normal account and a super whale that far apart? This particular team relies on Corpulent Cadaver. It's not a super new team, but there was fairly recently, last month or so, a world record that broke 1.1 billion damage on Ultra Nightmare. And this team revolves entirely around Corpulent Cadavers doing damage equal to his shield, and Brogni up here doing extending and buffing up that shield with his A2. That is the main premise of this team. Brogni makes this shield massive, and Corpulent can swing for potentially millions. I don't know how high we're going to see the numbers on this team get, but hopefully it is at least decent enough to kind of get us going. The one thing, of course, that goes with making a normal version of a team is their strategies are not necessarily going to be identical, because if you don't have every possible champion in the game, you can't use every one that they have. So their team revolves around, again, Corpulent, Cadaver, Brogni, and also this other rare here, Hellborn Sprite, to keep extending debuffs, or sorry, the buffs on the champion. It uses Krisk, which is one of the, of course, most desirable champions in the game, for his buff extension. And then they use Lanicus the Chosen, that provides the buff extension and also crit rate and an ally attack. Now, I do not have that champion, so what I will be using instead is Sandlash Survivor for the same increased duration of ally buffs. And also, in this case, I will get additional defense for my allies in all battles through her, because my gear cannot even come close to reaching the defense numbers of this whale account. Obviously, this video I'm talking about will be linked in the description below. The one that I followed most closely for this was highlighted by Ash, and the team was actually created by, or at least optimized by, somebody named MulletReaver. I will probably link his Twitch in the description below, along with the video from Ash that started this for me. Now, I've seen a couple versions previously from some of the other content creators highlighting the whales that they found that were getting this, as this very similar team broke the record several times. But this is the one that I most recently followed to try to get closest to the power, which may or may not be the wrong choice, because it's also the furthest from the account. This person has a +4 Brogni, for instance. So I've already kind of gone through and tried to get the best I possibly could for Sandlash in a previous attempt of making a strategy like this. I have not been able to improve anything on my Krisk. It is pretty much tapped out in a Stalwart set in order to live, and my Brogni here in a Reflex set. After I get the rest of this team built, I will go through the run here, and then at the end of the video, as typical, I will show you all of their gear and their stats. And before the run, we'll look at the AI. But for now, let's actually see how close we can get the gear on these new champions to what they have. So I'm going to swap here from the raid interface to HellHades optimizer, which I will also link in the description because it is very clutch. I have some of these stats pre-programmed in. I want these minimums. I have done a little bit of tinkering with this to see if I could find anything better, and it is tough. Now, one of the keys here is that I have to be in Stalwart set to decrease the damage he's taking, and I also need a second shield because his damage will scale with both shields. And so I'm going to attempt to find a Divine set that goes along with this as well. And we are going to see how this works. So we only have two options. That is about what I expected. You can see the speed's around where we need it to be. And I'm going to take the higher damage version, or the higher defense version here of this team. So now let's go back over to Corpulent and build him up. Okay, we're back here in the raid scene. And as always, when I'm working on my teams, I go fitting room just to make sure I like what I see before I actually put it on. I'm going to kind of zoom through this for you a little bit so you don't got to spend too much time here, and then we'll see what his total stats are when we are done. All right, so now we've gotten some pretty decent stats here on the Corpulent Cadaver. Let's try the same process here for the Hellborn Sprite and see what we can get. Now, this is going to be a little different. I'm going to try to go with the gear they're using. We're also going to attempt a divine set for a shield on her as well to double that up and make her survive longer. Because we're going to use a guardian set here, also a ton of speed. So let's swap over to the this scene over here, and we're going to see what we can get on the Hellborn Sprite. I'm going to optimize artifacts. We're going to go into sets, and this time we are looking for Guardian. Divine Speed I will leave on for the time being. Defense, they didn't actually have high defense, but their speed requirements I think needs to be at least 240 when all is said and done. So we're going to probably just leave that as it is. Oh, and I do need a minimum accuracy on her to land her abilities. She provides a weaken. Okay, so we have something that is not actually super bad. We are now going to swap back over here and see if we can build her up. Again, I'm just going to kind of sprint through this one for you or skip a bit so you don't have to spend too much time watching me collect the gear. So we got her all leveled up and enchanted. We have her at decent speed. It actually needs to be at least 240, I believe. So we've got there. The defense a little bit higher than they have theirs in the video, and our accuracy is over 250, which is really all that matters. So now let's actually get out of here and let me show you this actual team composition. So here's a full team comp: Sandlash, Hellborn, Krisk, Underpriest, Brogni, and Corpulent Cadaver. So we have Sandlash in the lead, which is a little bit different the way they have it, but I want that extra 25% defense because, again, my team is much weaker than the example team that is in the linked video in the description. We are going to have her start with her A1 because I want to make sure that her A2 is always going to be extending all these buffs once they are ready. For Hellborn, never use her A2. It doesn't really do anything valuable to this boss. We want this to happen for the increased duration of all ally buffs, and then here we're going to make sure this weaken gets placed as often as possible. Krisk, we are going to start with his increased defense and speed, and then we are going to turn that off because it should be getting extended forever, and I want to prioritize this even though it shouldn't actually matter, but sometimes the AI does get wonky. Brogni actually has the exact same AI. I had to click off for a second. The exact same AI setup. We drop his shield down, and then it should never need to be replaced. If it does, the tune is not working, and then we are going to prioritize this A2 to extend the shield. And then finally, the only ability that we care about is this 30% value of shield on Corpulent Cadaver. So let us select this team. We are sitting here at Ultra Nightmare, and this team should run completely on auto from the start. Let's see how it goes. We'll notice here that we have our full suite of debuffs going. They are now have all been extended. And that should really be all we have to do to keep this rolling. The main goal here will be to make sure that all the buffs stay up on the champion the whole time. They have to continue to get extended forever without ever dropping off from any of them. And then Brogni uses A2, that ability to increase the size of the shield. And that increased shield on our Corpulent Cadaver should eventually become so massive that he's hitting for hundreds of thousands, if not a million damage per swing. So my original plan here was to say that I'm going to let this run through, speed it up, and we can go to the end. But to save some time, I'm going to skip through in a minute here, and we'll see that this team absolutely fails and is unable to clear even a 1 key of Ultra Nightmare. So one thing that I did on this run that is kind of a mistake is I went to the off affinity here of Force, which is Brogny's weak affinity, and based on that, he was completely unable to survive, and so I just realized the run is over, not wanting to use my key, just cancel out the run. I did have my Brogny geared for 100% crit, not taking advantage of the spirit crit bonus that the original team did, because, obviously I'm going against that. I'm trying to make a more versatile team here, but as that didn't work, I attempted to do this again the next day against Magic Affinity, assuming that Brogny's lack of weakness here would enable this to carry. Now, I did lose that recording here. It also failed. It took to a little bit more damage for it to do the same failing, but eventually it proved unable to continue. So I went back to the drawing board, and I did a little bit of extra gearing on Brogny. I waited for Spirit. I got his crit down to 70% on his champion in order to get his damage up much higher, using the crit damage bonus coming from Hellborn Sprite, or sorry, the crit rate bonus of 15%, along with the extra bonus of 15% from the Spirit Affinity being weak to my Magic Affinity Brogny. So I went through there. I also checked out the other team a bit, did a little bit of tweaking onto the Hellborn Sprite. I took a piece of gear from a different champion and put it on her, so she is slightly stronger than initially shown. I will, of course, again show all of these guys' stats and stuff after this run. Now, this run is absolutely the best that I can do on my account right now without major restructuring of probably all of my champions, and even then I don't know if I could do substantially better than this run. Again, I will show you the whole thing sped up, so feel free to skip to the end of the run, and I will have a little bit more discussion about it, along with, again, at the end showing all of the stats and my final thoughts on this team, trying to do this as a realistic and normal account. Okay, so we made it past 50. past where an unkillable team can get in terms of actual turns. However, we'll see we did not make it to a 1-key on the Ultra Nightmare. This, of course, would be a very easy 1-key Nightmare team. I've actually run this on the same Affinity here in Nightmare, and it gets a ton of points. It just goes on forever. A ton of damage, I mean. But yeah, so I just can't do it. I have not been able to get this team to a 1-key Ultra Nightmare. I have not been able to get this team to even 10% of the world record, which is again 1.1 billion. I've not even gonna cross the 100 million mark with this. And there's a couple things, so I'm gonna go show you their gear now. There's a couple things I could do that would help that a little bit, but I just don't think I have the gear to do it. Maybe if I completely stripped my whole account, but even then I don't think so. Get down here to my usual recently used first. Now, one thing I did in trying to possibly save this is I swapped up this piece of gear from what you saw before. I took it from another champion, a little bit more HP on it, because what I discovered is her shield from this set, which would keep her alive a bit longer, just breaks on the first attack, and I can't stop it while keeping her in the sets that she's supposed to be in. So Hellborn Sprites sets just cause her to lose her first shield, which means she's not getting a doubled shield, and then dies first. If I could get that shield to live, she'd probably last a lot longer, and it's possible that if I took the shield set off, maybe I could make her a little bit tankier so she'd live a few turns longer, but it wouldn't be a substantial difference. It's not going to get us, 15, 20 million more damage. So her total stats, as we saw before, a lot of damage, good amount of speed, and then her accuracy drops slightly from that, and the HP is up a little bit from before. And then we have her down here to this Bulwark Mastery, which again I consider trying to change and give it to Sandlash. But if we give this to Sandlash, and since she is a stun target anyway, she would probably die faster without some kind of gear increase. We're going to go back here. This guy, we went down to War Master just for some extra damage and otherwise defensive traits. I could have avoided War Master and gone to, what is it? I'm going to miss every single one. This extra 200 defense. But as we'll see, he lived to the end, and the extra 200 defense is going to help him build his shield a little bit faster. But I don't think it's going to make up for War Master with, at least not with this team. Stats, we're looking at just a ton of defense. That's the whole goal in this Stalwart plus Shield set. Here we happen to have gotten him in a counterattack ring, which is really nice. It's 5% extra hits during the course of this, but that's just happened to have good defensive stats in the first place. So Sandlash here has been built specifically for this team. We have her in a reflex set, so she has a chance of rotating through her skills much faster, and that is really important because we would not be able to maintain this buff without that reflex set. There is actually a chance of really bad RNG in having it the buffs drop off early. So this is her attack that increases the duration of all buffs. For her masteries, we've taken her down here. Now, I have left this open because I've considered putting her in this one, but I don't think I can do that without being able to get more gear. And I've also considered giving her the War Master because then she'd do 2 to 3 million more damage. For this team, the way I have her built right now, I should probably try this Bulwark with her and then take it off of the Hellborn Sprite. But I just don't know it's enough. I think I just need more gear before I can really make a difference here. We'll see that the rest of her stats, high defense, she has decent crit rate and damage, and then honestly her accuracy should be a bit higher. This team would probably function better if I managed to sacrifice some of this damage for accuracy or speed. Brogni, I tried several versions of this. In the Force Affinity attempt that you saw, these two pieces were part of a shield set, and one of the Divine bringing a shield, and he just didn't bring enough damage. We didn't even come close to where we needed to be, so I switched that out to get him a decent amount of crit damage. And you notice his crit rate is only 71% because this team only even does as well as it does against Spirit, which gives him an extra 15% crit rate, along with Hellborn Sprites buff for an extra 15%. So this team, this is as good as it gets, and only on this affinity. Without this affinity, this team just flounders and maybe would be a 2-key nightmare against magic, and against force it doesn't even get to that point. So we'll notice he has as much attack as I can get him. Okay, speed. It needs to be between, I think, like 185 and 195, something like that. And then as much crit rate as you can get, or crit damage. Now, if I could get him an accuracy to 250 to purge that buff, that would also be nice, but not much I can do. Again, he has reflex in order to rotate through his ability, particularly his A2 there, as fast as possible. Krisk. Krisk is a good all-rounder champion for your account. Of course, I have him with as much defense as I can manage, as much speed. I actually tried to get a little bit more speed for this team to see if I could keep the buffs up better through him. Okay, crit rate and damage. Now, I lost some of this re-gearing him for speed because he was only 215, 220 previously. And then again, he needs at least 250 accuracy in order to be able to get his debuffs on the boss. Now, his kit, of course, he's bringing this ally protect and increased duration of ally buffs. That's what he's here for. He drops the speed and defense on himself in the beginning. This doesn't really do anything to the boss. And then his passive has a chance of dropping a decreased defense and decreased attack buff on the enemy. Now, his masteries, I also take him down through into the War Master for general use. Again, we could probably take him down the defense tree for this particular one, and he would live longer at the end. But you'll see he didn't die until after Hellborn was gone, so the team was kind of falling apart anyway. Doesn't much matter at that point. What we also do, though, this Master Hexer's Key, 30% chance to extend the duration of any debuff cast by this champion. That's what makes the debuffs on the boss sometimes last 2 turns, and that is really important for keeping the defense down and attack down as much as possible. Now, this has been kind of a long and frustrating process. I really thought the original team was going to be able to do it. Like, obviously, I knew I wasn't going for any world records, but I figured this could be a decent all-rounder, 1-key all-affinity team with how much gear is really on these guys. But you see the difference between even a decently strong account versus one of these amazing accounts is miles apart. There's almost no comparison between the two. And if I could find the other video, I might link that in the description below. The first version of this team I found that did about 600 million damage. And that's with somebody who did not have a +4 Brogni. And I still can't even reach that. But that person's able to get higher attack on his Brogni, higher defense on everybody, while also putting everyone in absolute perfect stats with better accessories. Because that's one of the other things is their Brognis are trying to run accessories that I can't get. The refresh accessories, I believe that they're called. And I don't think I have any at all for my dwarves, even the bad ones. And the refresh accessories, what they do is have a 5% chance of having an ability not go on cooldown. So if you have 3 of those, you have an additional 15% chance of keeping this, along with the 40% from the reflex set. So now you're at effectively a 55% chance of getting your skill back faster. It's not exactly that way, but it's really significant to get those shields up even bigger and faster. And yeah, I'm kind of taken aback. I'm not giving up on this team forever, but it's definitely going to be a while before I can retackle it. Maybe with some of these new awakenings, I'll be able to get my team to where I could possibly do this. But you'll see a budget team, not a budget team. This build has cost me probably 40 or 50 million silver over the course of working on this, and obviously a lot of gear, a lot of levels on these champions that, I'm not using these guys anywhere other than this team. This is for this. And I thought it was going to work. Here it didn't. So I don't know. It's frustrating, but this is kind of the process of building. Hopefully you guys have learned something from this. Maybe you have some tips as to what I could do to make this. If you have some insight and you guys there's some, master clan boss builders out there that spotted something that I've done wrong, let me know that in the comments. But for me, and then, let me know again, is this worth kind of showing, even though it didn't succeed exceptionally? This is more a cautionary tale of how the normal accounts and whale accounts are kind of playing a different game sometimes. This would be a great team if it worked. If this team worked, it'd be an all affinity, because it's not specifically speed tuned. It'd work for any level of clan boss, nightmare, brutal. I really wanted this team. This actually team would have been great for the account. This team would have been nice to use. So if you have any other thoughts, definitely let me know. If you appreciate the effort that went into this video, absolutely drop a like and a sub. There will be more content as I can think of it and build it for comparing these crazy teams to what I can actually do. I have one where I did that a little bit with an Ultimate Death Knight on his soloing missions for those dungeon bosses. And if you dislike this video, of course, smash that dislike button as it's still engagement for the channel. And as always, have a great day.